Shazam! Fury of the Gods was DC's latest entry into a long list of failures. There were two major issues with the movie, the pointless McGuffins and the terrible villains, which caused the movie to be riddled with plot inconsistencies. If you wanna know why and how it could have been fixed, stay tuned, I'll explain. Hi everyone, welcome to Rewrite, my name is Pat and in today's video I'm gonna take a look at Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods. I wanna prefix this video by saying that out of all the powerhouse characters, Shazam is actually my favorite. I like the concept of a young boy becoming a buff superhero because, let's be honest, that's what every kid dreams about. Acquiring superpowers without the need to be born with them. It's a neat concept that in the right hands can teach people how gaining power inevitably brings responsibility, duty, liability, morals and ethics into the mix, among other things. The movie completely fails in that regard, but I'm not gonna fault it for it, as the movie was clearly intended to be as simple and straightforward as possible for a very young audience. Nevertheless, it was a bad movie. If we're talking about a good superhero movie, suitable for anyone, look no further than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's got all you want and need from a superhero movie. Anyway, the one thing I liked about the movie was that there was continuity. What happened in the forgettable and generic first movie directly carried over into the sequel. I like that. And with that said, let's tackle the first major issue. Alright, quick reminder, a McGuffin is a plot device that drives the story. Villains want it and the heroes need to protect it, or vice versa. The heroes need to destroy it and the villains want to prevent it. With that out of the way, let me explain why the staff is such a bad McGuffin. For one, its purpose wasn't well enough implemented into the story. Once the staff broke, it freed the sisters. Good. Then the sisters acquired it in the opening scene and got their full powers back. Very early, but okay. A few minutes later, they had it fixed and now they were able to retake the powers from the Shazams. And here's where two big issues arise. Firstly, they didn't need the Shazam's powers to restore their realm. What they needed was the apple. Hespera herself admits obtaining the Shazam's powers is actually for personal reasons only.
This is very personal. If thieves stormed your home in the night and stole all your coin and then fled, you would naturally give chase, would you not?
Secondly, the power transfers are way too fast and easy. If the process of taking away the powers against someone's will had been longer and required more preparation, it would have solved many issues with the movie. When the sisters encountered the Shazams for the first time, they could have literally separated them or kept them busy with Anthea's power while Hespera zapped them one by one. Like one sister literally ends up doing halfway through the movie, by herself. So in order to make the staff more useful to the movie, they needed to make the staff more useful by reworking how it functions and giving it an important purpose. I'll explain how that could have been accomplished in the rewrite section. Moving on. The second issue was the villains. There are a few reasons why they were bad. First of all, they didn't really know what they wanted to accomplish. They kept referring to a plan, but everything they did seemed to be arbitrary and improvised. And this is all just the writer's fault for not being able to logically tie plot points together. They flee from the first battle, erecting a barrier trapping lots of people inside that serves no imminent purpose. Also, after threatening to kill Freddy,
I'll snap this child's neck.
they abduct him instead for no reason. Knowing the Shazam's identities does nothing because the sisters don't go after them in their human forms. Then, two of the three sisters show up for negotiations with Shazam despite him having literally no leverage, and they end up fighting. Hespera gets captured with the intent of getting taken to the Rock of Eternity to acquire the apple, but their entire plan hinges on the idea that the Shazams are dumb enough to put her in a dinky cage she can easily escape from. And of course, there's a back door leading straight to her home realm. That's far too implausible and convenient. Both parties are literally winging everything they do, hoping for the best. Once the sisters actually accomplish their goal, they decide to abandon their plan and go from restoring their dying realm to destroying another. This is something that I absolutely loathe. They basically forwent everything they worked toward up till now in order to gain nothing from it. Better writers could have been able to create a more cohesive plot by weaving both ideas together. To sum it up, the villains are bad because A, they don't have a good plan. B, try to achieve their goals in a roundabout ways, hinging on very specific circumstances out of their control, and C, terrible use of their powers. The powers in general were terrible. I'll elaborate on that in a bit. The worst thing though is at the end the Shazams end up fighting a random dragon. If you have a dragon on standby that can pretty much devastate everything by itself, just stick him on the realm and keep the apple for yourself. Two birds, one stone. Anyway, moving on to their ridiculous powers. The sisters are insanely powerful, way more powerful than the Shazams. Hespera proves that by basically taking on all the Shazams by herself at the burger joint fight, where she kinda wins. The sisters and Shazams are equally matched regarding strength and durability. Hespera can use her water stasis to immobilize them, she could petrify them, use telekinesis, or trap them in a water barrier they can't escape from. She could take all their powers by herself, one by one, if she uses her powers smartly and isolates them. Calypso can control minds, and she can spread the madness, but she doesn't really use it to do anything smart with it either. In terms of power, the sisters are at least evenly matched, but fled from the first fight for no reason besides stick to the plan. In the second fight, only 2 sisters showed up to fight. After that, as if they weren't overpowered enough already, they used a dragon they had conveniently locked up to fight for them. The sisters have had a huge advantage in literally every fight, and the sole reason they lost was due to bad writing. Bad writing in regards to their powers, level and scaling, as well as how to utilize them properly. One way to fix that would have been to have their powers start out weak and increase whenever they managed to steal back one of the Shazam's powers. Done this way, the movie would have gotten rid of a lot of problems plaguing it. It would have explained why they would have had to have fled from the earlier battles and become bolder as they grew more powerful. It also would have provided them with a better reason to acquire the Shazam's power, and it would have naturally increased the tension in the movie. A proper rebalancing of powers would have been a simple thing to implement and fix a lot of issues. So let's start actually with the opening scene. It's awful. In general, random villains causing random chaos is a bad way to start any movie. The movie doesn't explain who they are, what they want, or why we should care about any of this. An opening scene should be a hook that intrigues the audience.
What if someone digs it up?
May God have mercy on his soul.
Since this is a sequel and I completely forgot what happened in the first movie and it builds upon that, a refresher would have been nice. Shazam breaking the staff and the magic trapping the sisters disappearing would have been a better start rather than saving it for a dull joke down the line. Continue with the sisters vowing to punish the ones who are responsible for their suffering and take back what was stolen from them to restore their realm. And you've already stepped it up a notch. Compare Shazam's opening scene to Thor's Love and Thunder, for example. Thor 4 wasn't a great movie, but at least they understood how to set up an opening scene. We see Gore suffer, see his unwavering faith, see his faith getting betrayed, leading him to renounce his faith, see him acquire power, and then hear him declare his goal, endangering the main character we care about, setting the movie into motion. They are both very similar, but Gore's introduction is a lot better because in a short period of time we get backstory, brief character development, character motivation, and an end goal. Shazam's opening scene showcases a power that never gets used again. Good job, movie. And this is just the opening scene. As I said, the movie is riddled with minor issues. Going through all of that would take hours, and at some point it just becomes nitpicky. For example, Mary Marvel doesn't physically change, therefore everyone who knows her recognizes her. But little things like that can be overlooked. I only want to focus on the major flaws that when changed could have really impacted the quality of the movie. First, let's assemble the pieces. Goals. Let's give the sisters an end goal, restoring their realm. Now they have a good reason to do what they do, but it's not very perilous. Therefore, we'll add, in order to restore their realm, they need human sacrifices, about the number of Phyllis inhabitants, coincidentally trapped under a dome. Now, both goals can be achieved without having to forgo one in order to gain nothing in return. McGuffins. As I mentioned before, the staff is kinda pointless. Taking away powers in general should have been a longer process. Otherwise, the movie would have started with this scene right here and ended right after. They mentioned that the staff functions like a battery.
Battery for magic.
Batteries power things, yet the staff is never used to power anything. I was expecting it to be used to grow the tree and then maintain it, which would give the sisters a reason to hold on to the staff, but its only purpose is to steal and give powers and bring back the dead. And don't get me started on that one. The apple was okay. They should have really tried to negotiate for it, rather than rely on a really dumb heist hinging on a college student failing to come up with a better plan than to put an overpowered being in a normal cell after being almost strangled to death by her telekinetic powers. Stakes. A proper balancing of powers would have added organic stakes without having to change the main villain halfway through the movie. Shazam fighting and beating the sisters would have been far more satisfying of an end. Anthea's fondness for Freddy could have still led to her betrayal and usher in the downfall of the sisters. Also, I still don't understand who Ladon obeys and why or why not. Anyway, with these revised pieces, we can start reassembling the plot. We start with the magic barrier falling and get introduced to the villains and their goals. We see the Shazams use the stolen powers and get introduced to them. Now the inciting incident should be the theft of the staff and their acquisition of a little power. The infiltration of the school by Anthea was interesting but weird and short-lived. Imagine if the other two sisters had taken Anthea hostage and Freddy gave up his powers willingly to mend the staff instead of the very random imprisoned wizard. The sting of betrayal would have been so much bigger. Now, with the staff being whole again and having a hostage to trade for the apple, they start to counterattack. The sisters set up an ambush and take a few of the Shazam's powers in the skirmish, get the golden apple and manage to even the playing field. While the failure of the Shazams weighs on their minds, they unleash the dragon on Philly to keep them busy, while the sisters plant one half of the apple in each realm to merge them and prepare the sacrifices and the staff to nurture the tree. Eventually, Anthea betrays her sisters because she doesn't want to sacrifice innocent humans to birth vile monsters. She rebels against her siblings, hands Shazam the staff and reveals to him how to imprison them before being petrified or something. In a tropish twist, the Shazams of course win with their previously failed strategy because the first time around there wasn't enough trust in each other or some such. This is just an abridged version of how the movie's flaws could have been improved upon with a little logic. Take it with a grain of salt. The sisters taking each other out only for Shazam to then end up fighting a dragon was a weird direction to take the movie in. The extra monsters grown from the tree added little to no value to the story. They were also disappointingly easily taken care of. The purpose of the monsters was to increase the stakes, but the proper way to do it is to increase the initial danger, not abandon it completely for something else entirely. If you make a shark attack movie, you don't end up fighting Godzilla. That's just terrible writing. I took the wizard out because aside from mending the staff, he really wasn't needed. I like Jimon Honsu, but his character was mostly useless. I was really rooting for this movie to be at least mediocre. The first was forgettable, but okay. This one was forgettable and bad. In my opinion, the DCEU is somewhat in a state of perpetual mess, and it's hard to keep track of things for an average fan and viewer. The movie often felt like the scenes and plot were improvised.
Freddy and a staff for your freedom.
And get rid of the dome.
And get rid of the dome.
Tell us where to find the others. There are more.
Almost like the writers remembered they had to hand in a script at 3 PM sharp and clobber together some pages, hoping for the best in order to receive their paychecks. Anyone who has ever worked on a group assignment in school knows what I'm talking about. After realizing Chris Morgan co-wrote this movie, you know, the guy famous for writing Fast and the Furious 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Hobbs and Shaw and 47 Ronin. I knew I set the bar way too high. That's it for me for this video. The movie was a disappointment and cringe at times.
Because I've seen all of the Fast and the Furious movies, lady. It's all about family!
It had some interesting ideas that it completely failed to capitalize on. It was a box office bomb and did even worse than Black Adam. For DC to keep shoveling money into this sinking ship seems unlikely. Right now, they're more concerned with Blue Beetle and the Flash movie not failing as well. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, leave a like, it helps me out tremendously. I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about the movie and what your opinions are on the DCU as a whole. Leave your comments down below. If you'd like to see more, check out some of my other videos and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Have a nice day and I hope to see you again.